So have you seen this? The International Court in The Hague ruled against South Africa, calling it a serious procedural abuse, and it gave Israel 6 more months to respond to the South African accusations. So what the ICJ basically said is there is a dispute with regard to the procedures that South Africa has been following in the genocide case against Israel, and it granted Israel another 6 months extension to file its responses. Now, Israel's I-24 News reported the following, and I'm going to read it for you. Quote, "The International Court of Justice, ICJ, in The Hague has agreed to postpone proceedings in the case brought by South Africa against Israel, following Israeli objections regarding procedural violations and a lack of transparency. As a result, Israel will now have until January the 12th, 2026 to respond to South Africa's claims, pushing the deadline back by 6 months from the original July 2025 date. So the ICJ ruled that witness identities and evidence cannot be concealed from the defendant's state, reinforcing the principle of due process. South Africa didn't want to reveal the identities and the evidences, and the court just said, listen, you can't do that. All right, Israel need access to that because they're the defending state. So that's basically what happened there. According to many reports, the ANC government did not have any funds really to run for the previous election, and you cannot run for election if you don't have funds. So who paid and who covered the cost for the ANC? It was Iran. But in exchange, the ANC had to take Israel to court. So what basically happened was that South Africa became the mouthpiece for Iran at the International Court of Justice. And because of this, Washington is not happy, Israel is not happy, and there's a lot of developments around that. All right, so what do you think of this? Give me your opinion in the comments.
Did Iran fund South Africa's approach to the International Court of Justice over Israel? I'm Rebecca Davis, senior journalist for the Daily Maverick. This is a difficult claim to fact check, as will be seen, but it's also quite an important one because it's been repeated by some fairly high-profile public figures, and it's found quite a bit of traction on social media. We've also been besieged by emails from Daily Maverick readers asking us if this claim is indeed true. The allegation is essentially as follows. The ANC, which for years has been teetering on the verge of bankruptcy, announced in January that it had suddenly managed to stabilize its finances, and it didn't really give any specifics on how this had been accomplished. In the same week, South Africa approached the International Court of Justice in The Hague to ask that Israel's actions in Gaza be considered genocide. To some people, the timing of these two events is suspicious. And so the rumor was born that Iran, an enemy of Israel, had paid the ANC to litigate against Israel in the International Court of Justice. The major person spreading this claim seems to have been Frans Cronje, the former CEO of the Institute of Race Relations, in an interview he gave on the Johannesburg radio station Chai FM.
What has happened in the Iran case is that South Africa's foreign policy structures have been sold to the Iranians. It's state capture, no different. The South African government is the same thing as Hamas. It's an Iranian proxy, and its role in the war is to fight the ideological and ideas war, to stigmatize Jews around the world.
A similar claim was made by advocate Paul Hoffman from Accountability Now.
If you take a look at the interaction between Iran and South Africa since the Hamas attack on Israel, you'll see that we have had quite a lot of interaction, not only with Iran, but also with the Hamas leadership, who actually visited Pretoria. The Minister of International Relations visited Iran, and out of that has come the application that has been made in the ICJ by South Africa.
The reason why this claim is difficult to conclusively fact-check is because we don't have access to the ANC balance sheets, so there's no way to conclusively refute the idea that they just received a massive cash injection from Iran. But we asked ANC spokesperson Mahlengi Bengu straight up, has the ANC received money from Iran? She replied, quote, unlike other parties or even NGOs for that matter, the ANC does declare where its funding is derived. She's referring there to the regulations of the Political Party Funding Act. And we do know that if the ANC did receive funding from Iran, it would be a violation of this legislation, which prohibits local political parties from receiving funding from foreign governments unless it is for training or policy development. Bengu said that the idea that Iran was paying the ANC to approach the ICJ was, quote, preposterous. It should be noted that the only reason we are led to believe that the ANC has just received some kind of cash injection is because of comments made by the party's Treasurer General, Gwen Ramakgopa, on the sidelines of the ANC's January 8th birthday celebrations. She told journalists that the party was in better shape financially, saying, quote, "We are still not yet out of the woods, but we have been able to stabilize our finances." Now, we don't know anything further about whether that's even true or whether the ANC is putting on a brave face ahead of elections. But Bengu told us that the party's new financial stability was simply due to membership fees, its debit order system, and in-kind contributions. In terms of the wider claim that South Africa is doing Iran's bidding on the international stage, Department of Justice spokesperson Crispin Piri told Daily Maverick that this was offensive nonsense. In fact, what he said was, and I quote, "It is very disappointing that the people who make spurious and conspiratorial claims are not required to support their claims with any evidence. Instead, it's government who has the burden to rebut these spurious claims." There are two specific claims made by advocate Paul Hoffman, which Piri is adamant are factually incorrect. One is that the South African government has had quite a lot of interactions with Iran since the October Hamas attacks on Israel. Piri says there was one-day meeting between DIRCO Minister Naledi Pandor and her Iranian counterparts on 22nd October 2023, which was publicly disclosed at the time. Piri also says it is not accurate to say, as Hoffman has claimed, that the South African government has had repeated interactions with Hamas since the October attacks. Rather, it's the ANC which hosted a visiting Hamas delegation in December. And it is not the ANC which has taken Israel to the ICJ, but the Republic of South Africa. There are many who will find this rebuttal unconvincing. But one thing we should bear in mind is that South Africa's approach to the ICJ over Israel is entirely in keeping with its wider stance on Gaza. In other words, we don't need a conspiracy theory to explain why South Africa went to the ICJ. Plenty of people might not like it, but it is consistent with the government's policy on Palestine stretching back many years.
This is some huge news for South Africa. According to a breaking report, South Africa could partner up with Iran. The South African government are exploring the possibility of giving Iran a contract to build a nuclear power plant in South Africa. This would be the first time ever that Iran builds a nuclear power plant outside of their own country. And the reason South Africa are looking to do this is because they want to add 2,500 megawatts of capacity to the national grid. Our government have also said that they are open to doing the same deal with Russia. This could have huge international implications. The announcement has faced a lot of criticism, and analysts are concerned that this will make South Africa's relationship with the West, especially the United States, even more tense. Do you think this is a good idea?
A lot of South Africans have failed to accept that it was South African government genuinely taking Israel to the ICJ over what they've experienced before, apartheid in the past, and the relationship with Palestine. And all this thing about Iraq has made it more controversial. South Africans are now saying that the South Africa or ANC should not have bothered with what's going on over there in Palestine or in Gaza. They should not have involved themselves, and they should not have done anything to do with that. And going back to 2024, a lot of countries were applauding South Africa for what they did. They were really proud of them. But looking at things right now, the relationship between South Africa and the West has become more terrible than it was before, and the claims have it that it is because they took this case, or they chose to report Israel or take Israel to the ICJ. And also looking at the ICJ and what has been going on in Africa for the longest time, a lot of countries or leaders or people that have been reported to the ICJ, a lot of them are African. And a lot of people that commit injustices outside Africa, they're never actually taken there. Nothing is ever done to them. There is no case that is outside there for them. And it has also attracted attention on what if this is racism. Also, the ICJ declining this thing with South Africa and Israel, and giving Israel 6 months, giving South Africa 6 months, it is creating that attention that, this is racism and ICJ is racist. And Africans now, some of them are not blaming South Africa anymore or ANC on, their association with Iraq and being bought to speak up for Israel by Iraq. So even if that sounds like corruption, that is not what Africans are looking at right now. They're looking more on why has it been happening for the longest time that it has been our leaders. And someone will say, oh, our leaders are the most corrupt in the world and that's why it is happening like that. But again, we have so many other corrupt leaders in the world. I think maybe Africa should just come up with their own court of justice to put all the disrespectful and corrupt leaders and, the dictators and all those leaders that cause chaos in our countries. Maybe it's time for us to have our own court and stop depending in the West. Let me know what you think in the comments. And also, if you've not subscribed to this channel, kindly click on the subscribe button and be part of us. Also, don't forget to like this video. See you on my next.